Today on For What It's Nerd, we are discussing Spider-Noir, but before we get into that, of course, the X-Men 97 new trailer dropped for Season 2 earlier this week, and that looks really great as well. Of course, we'll have a look at that as it starts to get closer towards the time, but I wanted to note that I have seen it, and it did look good, and very excited to see where those characters go next in Season 2 with Apocalypse and how they're kind of dealing with Gambit's death in Season 1, etc., etc. So, look forward to that. But we're here, as I just said, to talk about Spider-Noir. And wow, I don't know what to say. Did we expect this to be good? I think people thought it might be fun. I don't think people expected it to be good. And I think those are two different things. As we've discussed so many times on this channel, there's such things as popcorn movies or kind of maybe even you could go so far as to say popcorn shows. Did anyone expect this to be good as well as being fun? I don't think so. But how do I describe this show? So first of all, let's talk about the coloring. The black and white version and the true, so like the true hue and then the authentic black and white were both outstanding in their own regards. There was portions where me and my friends were watching it in black and white because that felt authentic to the character of Spider-Noir. And then in other parts, we were wanting to see the color because, for example, with Kat Hardy, there was some great scenes where she's doing performances and her lounge and actually some of the wider New York establishing shots and stuff were really great to see in color. We even sort of were discussing the idea, what if they had done a version of the show where the color and the black and white were kind of fighting back and forth, whether that be the night scenes are all in black and white, or the city is in color and Spider-Noir is in black and white, or whatever, something. Like the fighting, the crime elements are in black and white, and then certain other elements that aren't. Of course, the whole show is about crime. But anyway, the point being that I think it was so good in both versions because the black and white, of course, is authentic to both, again, Spider-Noir as a character, but also to the kind of period of fiction that they're obviously bringing out of, like, history, should I say, that they're bringing to life in this fiction. But even the coloring felt kind of true to that, and what I mean by that is they like, you can tell they've kind of colored it specifically, and it's like when a black and white show or footage was colorized. You know, it felt exactly like that. It felt like the colors were so vivid in a way that you wouldn't catch in reality. And can we talk about the fact that so many films that are coming out now aren't as well colored as they maybe used to be, and aren't as vivid and aren't as exciting in that way? So to see a show that kind of leans into that and kind of plays with that a little bit more was really fun. To see them kind of messing with the idea of, let's kind of up this color. This is like a period where color was so vibrant and so out there, and let's capture that. Let's capture that in this moment. Story wise, you know, it's a typical story, you know. But I think they do it well. I don't think it's anything groundbreaking from the kind of private investigator / private eye / kind of mob boss storyline. Does it feel like something I've seen before in that way? Maybe. Of course, Spider-Noir adds a bit of element of difference, and I do like the kind of subplot they had about the German testing and the kind of like that all these characters had come from the same place, and there was something going on there, and there was like a link back to like this backstory moment. And I think that'll be a great kind of thing to even expound on further for a season 2 if they did do a season 2. But it's largely a standard fair story. But that's not the point of this piece, I don't think. I think the point of this piece is to have fun with Spider-Noir in this instance. And what I mean by that is you can tell that every point in this show, Nicolas Cage is being his most Nicolas Cage self, and the actors around him buy into that so well. Every character in the show had wit, had heart, had really great lines. Just everything about it felt so authentic to the period, but at the same time was so, for want of a better word, Spider-Core. You know, the kind of the relationship between Kat Hardy and Spider-Noir so well mirroring the original and more common relationship we know of Spider-Man and Black Cat, but kind of using Sandman, Flint Marko, to kind of make that even more compelling and kind of make a whole different line out of it. And the fact that you believe, as you so often believe with Black Cat and Spider-Man, is that they can be together, and for them to play it as so much more tragic in this one specifically, because what Spider-Noir is going through as a character is a really great angle and a really cool way of playing it. And to be fair, Cat Hardy in this was my favorite character, I think. Seeing this woman who's trying to navigate this mafia world whilst also feel what she feels, whilst also empowering herself. Just so many good moments in the show. Genuinely, maybe one of my favorite renditions of Felicia, Black Cat, however you want to put it, to have been done recently, because there's been a few, and what it actually reminded me of as I was watching it was very much the Batman animated show they did a little while ago. It was sort of set in a similar time period, and the kind of reimagining of the characters was not dissimilar to that, and I thought that was a really cool parallel as well. So very excited about seeing those two shows flourish, because I think it's kind of nice to see this time period, the kind of original comics time period, being used to kind of really elevate and change and reinvent these characters back to their kind of original forms, but different, but more aware of what they'll become, if that makes sense. Because if you think about it, media back then was all very one-off, right? Like there's no real through line. It's like a serial. If it's a cartoon, the characters reset by the beginning of the next episode. That if you look at Star Trek, for example, I always think of Star Trek with this, and obviously that's a little bit later on in the cycle, but you know what I mean. Star Trek, you start with the characters, they go through a thing. And in the next episode, they all know each other, but there's never a reference back to another episode. There's never a through line from another episode, very rarely, And then that kind of happens with comics as well. Everything was more one shot. Everything was more let's do this thing and then this, And so you never really built kind of more than superficial kind of surface level for a lot of characters until much later on. Or you try and see what's stuck at the wall, and a lot of things would be retconned or changed or alternated as they tried to decide what was actually sort of right. There was a lot more mistakes and kind of trial and error back then, right? And that's a good thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But being able to go back to that time period and use that time period as a setting, but have an idea for a story that kind of continues on further than one episode or one comic or whatever, is really fun. And it kind of meshes the biggest time for comics, so to speak, with this kind of amazing technology and storycraft that we have now. So I think that's what is so interesting about Spider-Noir, especially at this very moment. And also I like that we kind of are going back to, I think this is happening across the board. You're seeing Mandalorian and Grogu that just came out, and they're using a lot more puppets. They're using a lot more stop motion and that type of stuff. You're seeing a return to those better or arguably more craftful, more masterful versions of putting something on screen than just CGIing it all the time. Or, I mean, CGI is its place, but then just CGIing it all the time, or even at this point now, obviously somewhat concerningly, AI. So to see this show that just has so much heart and has so much ability to be something so alternate to everything we know, and still make us feel sort of the same way as we would about a Spider-Man movie or show or product, and maybe even more so in some regards, was really fun. And I can't even begin to sort of suggest to you guys how much I want a season 2. I think this is really great. Just the physical acting, the detective work in the show, the quips, the kind of snarky comments that feel so Spider-Man but feel so 1930s as well. It feels so you see, if you've ever seen even the slightest part of a noir setting in anything else, that kind of the kind of down on his luck detective PI is so big for that, and like seeing kind of like the japery and the comedy and great, like really really fun. I don't think there's a single moment in this show where I wasn't hooked, and I watched it back to back. I watched straight through. Like there was no stopping. The only reason that I would say that I dislike that is, of course, I don't really like the binge watch from this perspective of it takes a lot of people's time, and if you don't want to be spoiled, you have to watch it day one. I don't mind half dropping something or dropping it in 2 episode batches or any other kind of variation, but dropping it all in one day can be a lot. And I think I would have a preferred it's like a 2 drop or like just the usual one per week. I think actually it would have really helped this show as well to kind of, because there's a lot of moments that are quite cliffhangering at the end of episodes, and I think it would have been great to see. But I think what they do is, and I think what a lot of streaming services do now is, if they're not super confident on the show, they'll drop it all at once, and then if they are confident thereafter, they'll drop it weekly thereafter. So it's a weird thing now. It's like the Netflix model has kind of become the, oh, I don't really want to try model anymore, and they drop it all at once, and then like the shows that they care about, they like drip feed it for like 8 weeks. So it is what it is. Again, what I want to say is, love this show. I want a season 2. I think it was phenomenal. It had loads of heart. It was really funny. The characters were all great and really well rounded, and where do they go next? I think it would be great to kind of see this Spider-Noir evolve, and if they can do more stuff like this, more Spider projects in this vein, I think it would be better for Sony overall. So with that said, thank you guys for listening and watching as always, and I will see you guys next week to discuss Masters of the Universe. So until then, bye guys.